Hey everyone! Welcome to Gonna See My Friends podcast. The podcast where we revisit the movies we love, old and new, reminisce, debate, and of course, have a few laughs along the way. In every episode, we dust off a classic or check out something fresh. All while diving into what makes movies so unforgettable. Whether it's a childhood favorite, a guilty pleasure, or a film we probably should have seen by now, nothing is off limits. So grab your beers, press play, and let's go see our friends on screen and in our ears. Good morning to your host,
Hello.
Stephen Garcia. Thank you, Stephen.
Hello.
Yes,
Norman,
sir.
what's up? How you doing, man?
Good. My name's Toby Ballinger.
Oh, it's Tobias
And
Maximus.
yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. And today we are going to talk about one of my all-time favorites, High Fidelity. Oh, boy. Stephen whoa, look at that.
Oh, shit.
That's rad. That's a little bonus.
I don't know how I did that.
I love it.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited, man. I love this movie. It's one of my favorites.
Yes.
I probably said that a lot, but I mean, this one genuinely, I watched it like probably 4 or 5 times this week.
Yeah.
And it just never gets old. I mean, it gets old. I couldn't watch it twice in it. Well, no, I did kind of watch it twice in a day one time. But it's just more of like a warm blanket on a rainy day
Yeah.
kind of movie. It's just comfortable and it never gets old.
It never gets old.
No.
You owned it on iTunes.
Yes.
That's
And it's
where
also
I got
on
it.
Hulu right now.
It is on Hulu. The movie and the TV show. There's a spin-off TV show with Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah.
That had a season that I watched and enjoyed.
Oh, really? Is it good?
Yeah.
I didn't see it. All right.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to. I just never kind of got around to it.
Yeah. It was it's High Fidelity, but it's a modern version of it. She's breaking the fourth wall, and
okay, cool.
It's great because it's Lisa Bonet's daughter that's starring as the Rob in this.
Yeah.
And so it was fun. It was I enjoyed it. But for the movie, when was the first time you saw this movie? It came out in the year 2000.
The year 2000.
Finally, we made it. We made it.
I was going out. Me and my girlfriend at the time, she took me to the Rona Park cinemas. That's where she lived. And we saw, it was like a Sunday. It was like a 10 o'clock showing. And we were both big fans of John Cusack. Yeah. So we just immediately were like, okay, let's go see this movie. And it had just come out probably like a couple of weeks before. We didn't see it right at the beginning, and then we loved it. I mean, it was as soon as it came out on DVD, I think I bought it. And I'm just a big fan of Cusack and his movies. And he was a very kind of, I don't know, prolific guy in the 80s. He was in a lot of the 80s movies. And then in the 90s, he kind of took a little turn and did more dramatic roles, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or not dramatic, but just kind of offbeat and kind of a, I don't know, kind of a mixed bag of stuff, And yeah, so when we saw it, it was great. It was probably the theater wasn't full, but it was probably like maybe 5 or 6 other people in the theaters. Like I said, it was like a 10 o'clock showing on a Sunday. So it was cool though. I remember it distinctly. It was really cool. Yeah, we had a good time. How about you, Tobe? When was the first time you saw this?
I got this. I got it from you, Dad. Back in the day. So back in the day, before iPhones, we had iPods.
Yeah.
And there was I had the iPod that had the screen on it, the little 3-inch screen.
I did too. Yeah.
And when iTunes first came out, you
could
used
share
to
that
be
shit.
able to share everything with everybody. And I came over to your house and plugged my iPod into your iTunes and just dragged and dropped everything that you had. And this was one of those files. So that's going to be 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in there maybe. Okay. I don't know when that iPod with the screen, it was, I would go to everybody's house and we would just steal everything. Yeah. And they put an end to that really fast. Yeah. They were like, hang on. But I had a couple of seasons of The Office that I got from D Money. I had not only the music, but all those video files that you could just. And so I watched it repeatedly on that little 3-inch screen and was just in love with this movie. I'm like, I can't get enough of this movie. And being a huge Tenacious D fan, by then everybody knew who Tenacious D was because it was 2008 or whatever. We'll call it 2008.
Yeah.
That this Jack Black was coming into his popularity, and at the time he was a relative unknown in the year 2000 because that first Tenacious D album came out in 2001. So really nobody really knew who he was. So it's interesting to go back and look. When you watch this movie, and if you're a Jack Black fan today and you have not seen High Fidelity, you must watch this movie, stop what you're doing and go, well, listen to the end of this podcast and then go back and watch this movie, rent it on YouTube, whatever you got to do. Because this is the my favorite Jack Black role.
Well, I mean, I was just about to say, is this the best Jack Black movie, do you think? Or do you think School of Rock?
Well, I think so. It's interesting you bring up School of Rock because I think his character in School of Rock is like an older version of Barry. Like maybe he's grown and matured just a little bit, not too much, but he's still obnoxious and he's still a musician, and there's a lot of similarities between those roles. But School of Rock is up there too. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say, and his entrance in this movie as well. I mean,
oh god,
it has to. I mean, it's just, what is this?
Holy shite! It's just quintessential.
Yeah, I mean, I think this role captures kind of the essence of what he brought or brings to other roles. I mean, you see that in the other roles that he plays and other parts that he plays. I mean, even Shallow Hal, which I think came out around the same time, 2001, 2002. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
Yes.
It's just an element that he brings to every role, which is that kind of, you don't know where he's going to kind of go, and you have to kind of keeps you on your toes. But yeah, I have to agree with you. I think this movie really kind of highlighted the talents of what Jack Black and I have a little story I have a friend who I brought up on the podcast before that I'm missing. I don't know where he is, but his name was what was his name now? Jesus, Mark.
Right.
And Mark, if you're listening, give me a sign, man. Anyways, he grew up down in Southern California, and he lived right next door to Jack Black when they were kids. And he remembers when Jack Black went out and got the Intellivision. Remember that game console and television back in the 80s? Do you remember that? No. Oh shit! It came out it came out right after Atari 2600, and it was like this little pad, and it had like numbers on it, and you would slip this thing on it, and it would whatever. Anyways, jungle, I forget, some jungle game. Anyways, Jack Black, his first credit is that commercial for that game, Jungle Land or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, my friend lived next door to him, and he said, "Oh, he was like that since he was a kid."
Pitfall. You're talking about Pitfall.
Pitfall. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's a great commercial. I do remember that commercial.
Yeah, he did that for the Intellivision gaming console. And
I love that game on the Atari too.
Yeah,
it never ended. You just went round and around and around. Yep. Yeah, it was hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so I mean, he's been that way forever, and it's been, he's part of the joy of this movie. But there's a lot of other good actors in this movie as well, and so he's
the
just
acting is phenomenal in this movie. Everybody is great.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. You want to give everybody the
details? Yeah, High Fidelity came out. Let's see, when did it come out? It came out March 31st, 2000. It had a budget of $30 million. It grossed $47 million, which usually you want to double your budget to make it a hit. But I mean, I think it's a hit. Anyways, stars John Cusack as Rob Gordon, Jack Black as Barry, Eben Yela, I hope I said that right.
Well done.
As Laura, his girlfriend, her first American. She's Dutch, I think, and it's her first American film. We got Todd Luiso as Dick, Catherine Zeta-Jones as Charlie, Joan Cusack, his sister, is Liz, Tim Robbins is Ian Raymond. I love that. And Lisa Bonet as Marie DeSalle, the singer that they're all obsessed with in this movie. And let's see, it was written by John Cusack, Scott Rosenberg, D. Vincentis, and it's based on the book by Nick Hornby. And it's an hour and 53 minutes of just fantasticness. It's got some cameos and some deleted scenes. Harold Ramis played his dad, John Cusack's dad, and Beverly D'Angelo played a spurned wife of a record collector. And man, there were some good ones in that collection. Did you see those deleted scenes, Toby?
I haven't seen them, but I've heard she sold the collection for like $50, and it's like,
well, she wanted to, but he wouldn't take it. I was like, dude, the stuff in there was great. Yeah, just a few little tidbits of tidbits of trivia. And also, Got to Give It Up was originally going to be sung at the end by Jack Black, but he was like, no, can't do it. Not gonna. Wouldn't be
that's
prudent.
a great call.
And instead, what did they sing? I forget.
They sung "Let's Get It On."
Let's Get It On. There you go.
Repeated motif throughout the movie, which I don't know that I caught on the first 40 or so views, but in really watching,
I still haven't.
It comes up several times throughout the movie.
Yeah, and it's pretty great. And those are the tales. Notice I didn't say deets. Most people say deets. I say tales. Just another example of innovation over here on Gonna See My Friends podcast.
Thanks, Aziz.
Okay. All right. So
your initial John and Joan back at it again. The team. This is their 8th movie together.
Yeah.
They would do a total of 10 movies. If you're wondering, it always seems like John and Joan Cusack are in, or that Joan is always in a John Cusack movie. That's kind of the way that it's always seemed to me. They've done a total of 10 movies together. This was number 8. They would do 2 more after this, if my math adds up. John, I think this movie is not only breaks the fourth wall, but runs through it full speed and just embraces the whole breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
That starts off right from the beginning. He's talking to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the interesting thing, as a Ferris Bueller huge fan.
Yeah.
And it's been going back through my memory, the first time I ever saw, there have been others, of course, but for me, Ferris Bueller was the first movie that was made for me that the character is talking to me.
Yeah.
And John Cusack actually auditioned for the role of Ferris Bueller and didn't get it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Matthew Broderick got it. And in my mind, I think that was probably the right choice for that role. But and John Cusack did not want to do the fourth wall break in this at all. He thought it was going to be too much me. There's too much Rob. The Rob character is just overwhelming if you're constantly talking to the audience. And it was the director, Stephen Frears, who told him, let's do it. We should do it. Think of Alfie. Think of the movie Alfie with
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Yes, and so he didn't play it as a Ferris Bueller character. He played it more along the lines of Alfie.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting because I think in this movie, I think was the beginning of kind of after this movie, John kind of did like you didn't really see him a lot in a lot of movies, although he, you know, in the aughts, whatever you want to call it, the early 2000s, he did some like independent and lower budget movies. But look, check this out, dude. In the 80s, he was doing he did all the typical teen movies. So he was doing Class was his first one, 16 Candles, Better Off Dead, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, and then he gets into Say Anything, 8 Men Out, One Crazy Summer, and Tapeheads with Ian Raymond here. And so he was doing the whole kind of 80s thing or the teen thing in the 80s. But then as he gets into the 90s, he kind of graduates into this, the Grifters, The Paperboy, Bullets Over Broadway, Gross Point Blank, True Colors, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. So he's doing all these kind of, I don't know what you would say, graduated up into these kind of more mature roles, I suppose. But and then he tops off the decade with this movie, High Fidelity. It's always kind of like a palate cleanser for me, because if I'm going through a rough day or I'm going through something kind of, oh, I don't know, I need, like we're all kind of going through rough days lately. You throw this on and it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. Like you could always, it just always gives you a laugh,
Yeah.
and it's kind of refreshing to have a movie like that, especially this week. This week I watched it 4 or 5 times, and
Did you?
yeah, and every time it was, I didn't watch maybe the whole thing, and then I would pick up where I left off, and then I would watch it again, and not then I would just listen to it. I'd have it on in the background while I'm doing some other shit, and yeah, it's just a great. It's a great movie. And the whole thing too was John Cusack, but he also wanted Jack Black because he knew Jack Black was going to kill it, and he did. And Jack Black initially was like, he tried to quit a couple times. That's
Yeah,
what
I
I've
did.
read on the deep dive here. He tried to quit a couple times because he just was so intimidated by Cusack and Stephen Frears, which John was like, oh, don't worry about him. Come on, we'll just have some fun. And so, yeah, that was kind of interesting to learn because I you would have never thought it. So,
Well, yeah, and imagine this movie without Jack Black as Barry, and
yeah,
imagine it being somebody else.
yeah.
To me, it's not. I mean, I can't even picture it at all. He's so over the top and funny, and there are, for me, we talk about getting to know people, and one of the ways you get to know people, like early on, if you know that you can get along with this person, is because they threw out a movie line that you know. So there's movie lines that stick with you.
Yeah.
And there are so many things that Barry says that I do on a daily basis. If I don't say it out loud, I think it loudly. And I mean, right from the very beginning, we can. I mean, if we just talk about just the Jack Black scenes, I'd be happy about that. But there's so much to go over. There's a lot of things to talk about in this.
Yeah.
There's male fragility, and going through the what does it all mean phase, and which we've all done.
Well, I
And
mean, let's get into that because
let's
I
do
think
it.
that's really an important part. I mean, because this is kind of dressed up again as kind of this rom com, maybe this dark comedy, maybe.
Right.
But initially, I mean, he starts off the movie and they're breaking up, him and his
Yeah.
girlfriend and Laura, his girlfriend Laura,
Mhm.
and immediately hits us with the quotable line of, "Am I miserable because I listen to pop music?" Or
Do I
what's the
listen to
line?
pop music because I'm
Yeah,
miserable?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the question, and that's kind of
Yeah.
like the thesis of the whole movie.
It is.
But I mean, initially, it's kind of like you said, you pointed out a little bit of the male fragility, but it's more of like, and I agree with that because I think there's a lot of double standards that I think Rob, which is John Cusack's character, Rob kind of goes through in this movie because I think it's something that we all go through, but
Yeah.
the way that we learn it is kind of different. But it's kind of a universal truth that he kind of, by the end of the movie, he kind of discovers. And my thing is, with when I watch this movie, I think the one thing I always think about, what comes to me, is that you got to make a decision. There's points in your life when things happen and you have to make a decision. And a lot of people, and myself included, a lot of people don't make that decision. And so they allow this thing to kind of fester and fester. As the more you don't make that choice,
Hmm.
then at some point life is going to make it for you, and you're not going to like the way life it's
That's
going
a
to.
great. That's a great call. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to. There's compromise has to come at this at some point.
Yeah.
Where and I think he does finally get it at the very very
Yeah.
end. He finally gets it, and it's something that um, it's something that Laura says to him that she says it a little earlier before as we get near the end. Um, that I think Laura says that he has to dwell on a little bit, and then he kind of almost repeats it back to her. But he says it in his own way, but he says it to us, and he doesn't say it to her.
Right.
He's going to say it to anyway. Jumping way ahead. I mean, there's a lot of we did Mallrats that came out yesterday, and Brody is a lot like
right.
Rob in this, where he's got this way that the world should be, and he's upset that it's not that way.
Yeah.
And Rob is he's going through a why have I always been rejected? Why am I always doomed to be rejected? Right. And so Laura leaves, and he goes in. The first thing he says is top 5 desert island breakups, and he lists them off, right? Allison Ashmore, Penny Hardwick, Charlie Nicholson, Sarah Kendrew, and Jackie Alden. Those were the ones. And
did you hear that, Laura?
Yeah. And he rips the door, and it's "You're Gonna Miss Me" by the 13th Floor Elevators. Blasting through the streets of Chicago.
Rocky Erickson, dude. I love that lead singer, man. That's quite a story with him. Go ahead, keep going.
So yeah, it's just he starts off, and so that it sets the tone with he's the victim here, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, but he does this thing. He does these top 5 things, which is the motif that also a lot of the same motifs keep following throughout the movie. What were you saying?
I think it's mostly just a story about growth and a story about how he uses his surroundings to kind of keep himself where he is. I think a lot of people, she says something to him during the course of the movie where she says, you have to allow people to change, and you have to be affected by things. I think, I think going through my 20s and 30s, I remember always feeling like, this is how I feel about this. And and if I change, then no one's going to change my mind about this. And at some point you have to change your mind about it. And it's not a drastic thing. You don't have to be like anti this or for this, or it doesn't have to be so black and white.
Right.
And I think that's the fear. The fear is that, oh, I'm going to be looked at as like a sellout, or I'm flopping, or I'm this or that, or whatever. And it's like, no, that's just called growth, And I think that's the thing that that finally hits him at the end, is because people don't want to be affected by things. They think that, because I know people, that I'll show them a song or I'll show them a movie that is just fantastic, and they're just like, yeah, it's all right. And not to say that they have to like it, but the impact of well, okay, then why is it just okay? And they're just, it's all right, it's cool, whatever. But it's this idea that you're going to be the one that's in charge. So you're going to be the one that's going to be like, no, that is awesome. No, sucks. You're going to be the dictator of all that stuff. But in reality, sometimes it's like you have to allow yourself to feel things and to react to things, because that's truly how you appreciate things, And so his kind of hesitancy to do that didn't allow him to appreciate Laura, because he was like, okay, I have my girl, I have my job, this is my life, my record collection, blah, blah, blah. And he always used his music as a way to kind of control all that stuff. And then at the end, it's like, what he was saying was, oh, I have to, when he was after Laura's dad's funeral,
right,
and he's leaving, he's sitting on the bench, and he's like, I've always never committed to anything. I always had one foot out, one foot in. And I think that's a problem that a lot of people have.
Oh yeah.
Is that they don't want to change, and they want to keep their options open, or at least that's how I was. And I hurt myself, and I hurt a lot of other people doing that. And it's because if I was just to appreciate the moment and appreciate what I had, and then make those decisions based on that, that's what you call like mature and whatever you want to call it. But I just never did that, And so in this movie, you see the arc, the character arc in that movie is just fantastic. That's part of the charm of the movie too. Sorry, I'm babbling now, but
no,
your thoughts.
Well, my thoughts are we've seen this in other characters that we've covered before. The fear of success, so to speak.
Yeah.
The unwillingness to compromise. We haven't done Good Will Hunting yet, but the character Will Hunting is totally based on this, where if things aren't exactly right, then you just blow it all up, right?
Right. And that's the fear. That's just fear. And people dress it up something different, as maybe indignant or whatever it is, and anger or just people are just afraid to be vulnerable. And when you can see that in people, then that's really, it's kind of, and I see it a lot lately, especially look around and, the events of the day.
Right.
There's a lot of these people that are really insecure and really just, they're not really open to anything other than what they've always believed in. And it's like, well, okay, you're making it harder for a lot of people just because you can't get over certain things in your life.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of, it's all over this movie too. And that's why I love this movie, because it shows me that not only where I was, but it also shows me how where I'm at now and how I'm able to kind of recognize those patterns, and that's kind of why I like this movie as well too. Great
Right.
character arc for John Cusack.
It's very true. It should feel real.
Yeah.
It should feel like, maybe not the whole I'm going to call all my past girlfriends and read
Right.
and find out why, why did you, I mean, so cringy, right? Like, God, I don't think I was like, have I ever like tried to, no, but
Yeah.
it's driven me crazy.
Yeah.
I've laid in bed and, like he does with the Ian fantasy. Rob's issue is he thinks the world is supposed to be a certain way. It's supposed to be the house and the picket fence and the 2.5 children and the dog, and it's just not reality, man. It's just
Right.
not the way it goes, and it takes a long time for him to get there. And I think what you're talking about now, in that today, maybe in today's society, that people feel like things should be a certain way. I don't think that people know what they want.
Right.
To be honest, they just go, here's what society standards say is success.
Right.
Well, you got to blow that stuff up, dude. That's not success for you.
Yeah.
Success for you could be something completely different. And if you just realize, dude, just let it go. Like he said, he's got one foot out the door half the time. He's constantly making these lists of what the top 5 things are. Like he's a professional critic, right? He's a professional appreciator, a professional critic. And at some point, you just got to be you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you have to allow yourself to make those mistakes and be wrong.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Let yourself be okay.
And I think that the conversation that they have when she moves back in and she puts up she organizes that concert.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, what are you, crazy?" And he's like, what if I had something planned?" And she's like, "Well, what are you ever doing that can't be canceled?" She's all this because he's fearful.
Yes.
And that's a legitimate fear for, I think, artists and anybody that kind of puts things out, like probably us too, putting this thing out on the internet. It's like, it's that insecurity. It's that fear of like, but she's right. We're putting something out. We're a part of it,
Yeah.
And for him, I think that was the thing that he could always avoid, because he owned the records. I have all this credentials. I own the record store. I was a DJ. I have this record collection. I know what's right. I know what's good. I know, because everybody says, "Oh, this is a good song." He goes, "I know," because he's always in that position of like, I know what I'm doing here.
Right.
But once he puts that stuff out, then now he's susceptible to all that stuff, and he's vulnerable to all that stuff, and
but that's he might be wrong. And what if he's wrong? Yeah.
And it's like,
they don't like it.
Yeah. And that's a fear that I think everybody had. I had it, and I put out music and I put out stuff, and it's like, I used to never be able to do that because I was like him. I was just always like, well, I know because I listen and I do and whatever excuses that I told myself. But it's like, at some point you just have to do it and not worry about what other people are going to do, because that's just what you do, right? You just create. And if you don't put out the output, then you're just limiting yourself, then you're just in your room going, "Oh, this is a masterpiece." And then you play it for people and they're like, "Okay, cool. Good job, dude."
I just don't think I can handle that kind of rejection.
Yeah. So I love this movie, man.
Great movie. So that's So really, we good insights there, and thanks for opening up about that.
Yeah.
I think we all have a little bit of that in us. I don't want to speak for everyone, but
yeah.
So anyway, so he owns a record store, and it's called Championship Vinyl. And now you said this was based on the book by which of the same name.
Yeah.
And as far as books to movies, this stays about as true to the source material as any. You read the book?
Yeah, I read the book.
I mean, the only thing that's changed is it's not Marie de Sal in the book, it's Marie LaSalle. Other than that, and it being in London and not Chicago, it's almost, I mean, the screenplay must have been, look, we got the plot. This is the hard work is done. Let's write the dialogue. Let's bring in a Jack Black to come in and just be.
That was, yeah. I mean, I think the print too was, and they kind of do it in a little B-roll kind of thing or a montage type of thing. They do when they get back together, then they start to go out to dinner with their friends, her friends and stuff. And there's just little differences, but it's for the most part, it's like the book. I think even the author Nick Hornby was like, it's just like John Cusack was just in my book. He was just doing the book, and it was amazing. He liked it. I had the pleasure of meeting him too. He did a in-store signing when I worked at the Virgin Megastore back in like either 2000 or 2001. And I think it was because of this movie. So it had to have been around, one of those years. And not a lot of people showed up. And, he was fine with that. But he sat in my manager's office upstairs before and after. And we got him lunch, and he ate lunch. And he was just a normal dude. I mean, he's just little feller. And he just sat in the corner, ate his lunch, and signed all the books. And he was a great guy. And
that's nice.
Yeah, it was a really nice guy. Really nice.
He went to the Virgin Megastore because he wrote that Rob is going to throw the country A through K rack out into the street and then go work at a Virgin Megastore and never look back. Because that's from the book.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even think to ask him about it because I don't think I had read the book at that time. I think I read it after.
Right.
But
you read the signed copy.
Right. And I still have it somewhere.
Do you really? Good.
Yeah. And at least in the move, when you move, you lose but not lose, but you
of course,
you
so can't carry everything around with you, sure.
Right. But I still have it somewhere. It's around here somewhere.
Oh, that's great. It's very readable. That and what did you say he wrote? Fever Pitch.
Yeah.
And About a Boy. Both been turned into movies, of course. Yeah. Fever Pitch has been turned into two movies. One about it's written about his love for Arsenal. And then and that was turned into a movie in the UK. And then here in the States, it was about the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
But it's essentially the same movie.
Yeah.
He's written, books. There's essays, I think, that he's written, and they're very readable. They're page turners.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't think I've seen About a Boy. I think Jared has, though. Jared, I think, had that movie.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. And I saw Fever Pitch when it came out, but I don't remember much. I remember they filmed it. I remember watching the game when they actually filmed when the Red Sox, I think it was when they won in 04.
They weren't expected to win. That was kind of a happy surprise. They actually turned out to win the World Series because there was the Curse of the Bambino was on. It was 2004. Yeah. And all of a sudden they're, Big Papi's bringing them from behind. They're down 3-0 to the Yankees in the ALCS, and they go on and win 4 straight. Unbelievable. I mean, as a Giants fan and my team losing the World Series a couple years ago, I didn't want to watch baseball for a little while, right? We had that thing done until the goddamn rally monkey showed up. And so anyway, but we could, that's a whole other podcast we could talk about another time, So anyway, this movie brought us such terms as sad bastard music, which I still say with Jack Black is so Rob and Dick, we meet Dick, couldn't be a sweeter character, right? And they're listening to Belle and Sebastian, and it's a Monday morning, and it's just ha ha, and they're really enjoying it. And the door rips open, and here comes Jack Black. And you started the whole podcast off with that. Here. He's coming in full throttle, dude. Oh my god!
Holy shit! What the hell is this?
Right. He comes in and puts on "Walking on Sunshine" off full blast. Barry, turn it down!
This can't go up any further.
So good. right from the jump, you're like, okay, so we're getting Jack Black with the big beer belly at the time. He's got the super tight graphic tees, and I mean, you're like, it's almost as if he hasn't changed a bit. Like he's still playing those guys.
It's
his Instagram is that guy.
Yeah. Well, and we have to talk to Jared again. Maybe when we do Jewel Denial. But he had a girlfriend back in the day that would tease him about the type of music that he played. And she even called it music. Yeah, that sad bastard music.
I say that all the time, dude. Yeah. It's such a great way. I don't think I'd ever heard that before, but I will if there's something like that on.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and Rob goes, "Hey, we were enjoying that sad bastard music."
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to. What does he say? I just wanted something that I could ignore.
Yeah, something that I could ignore. That is such a great way of putting it. And I will put that on if I'm, got a lot of work to do, a lot of research to do during the week. You put music on, but you can't put Walking on Sunshine on,
right,
and try to think about what's going on. It's just way too. He's doing all his dances, right, like his inflatable arm flailing tube man. And he's just over the top, full blast. So yeah, we get Jack Black right from the jump.
And what else you got?
So we could talk about Rob is going through his list, explaining who all the girls are. The first two kind of really were neither here nor there, right? He's like, it was like 6 hours. We made out under the bleachers, and then she married the next guy. Like they were 14 years old.
Yeah.
But then they start talking about Charlie, and Charlie, he skips over Sarah Kendrew for some reason. And he starts talking about Charlie. Now, Charlie who was played by Catherine Zeta-Jones. They were together 2 years, and she crushed him because she was way too pretty. Bitch. She's way too pretty. He was always insecure. She was in like graphic design, and he was so worried that she was going to leave him for somebody in the graphic design program, which of course she did. And so now he's got these women are rejecting me, right?
Right.
And
well, let's talk about Charlie for a minute, because
let's talk about it. Yeah.
Well, that character. Tell me,
plays this, and you hate her. You're like, I could see she plays it perfectly.
You're right. Yeah, because I hate that character, man.
Oh my God.
I mean, but tell me you've known somebody like that, or you've gone out with somebody like that.
Yeah. Like, kind of, he's like, he's like, you got to punch your own weight, right?
Right.
She was in a higher weight class. I mean, he puts it. There's other ways to put. He outkicked your coverage, things like that. He puts it. He's like, you got to punch in your own weight class. And
well, I think when you're in college, everything is like the same because you're in these, you have 4 years.
You're in the same class,
right? But so you have all this stuff that you see them every day. You're around, even if you don't like have classes with them. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I took college courses, I remember seeing the same people in the same, because you have class the same day at the same hour, so you see the same people all the time. And I could see why, he kind of got in that situation, because I've had tons of crushes where I'm like, there's no way, right. But then sometimes you try, and then sometimes it's like, whoa, but then you're stuck in this kind of situation where you're like, oh my God, I'm just biding my time. Like, this is, because I remember one time this I was kind of seeing a girl that was out of my weight class, so to speak.
Yeah.
And and then we kind of broke up, and I was really crushed, but I would just be like, well, what happened? And she would say, the only thing I can remember her telling me is like, you're nice, but I just wish you would tell me to shut up sometimes, and I'm like, oh, okay.
You were intimidated by her.
Yeah, I was, dude, because she was just so, I mean, it was, all my friends would be like, dude,
you're right.
And I'd be like, yeah, I don't, I'm just treading water here. I don't know what to do. I'm throwing everything at her. Yeah, see what sticks.
That's great.
But it only lasted like a month or something like that. And it was okay. But it was cool. It was what it was. So,
yeah. So she plays that role so well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the year 2000, Catherine Zeta-Jones, right?
Yeah.
So he's right. he's right. She was, she might have been way too pretty. And he was like, the first time he's describing her, she sounds incredible. She was, everybody paid attention to her, and she was funny, and she was all these things. Oh, so great. But then, we find out when he ends up going back to, but, we're not there yet. But
right.
So, so he's telling us this story. He's telling us through the fourth wall this story. And meanwhile, out in the shop, there is a gentleman who's come in to the store, and he's looking for, I just called to say I love you. And he says, yeah. And he goes, can I have it? No. He goes, I want to get it for my daughter. And he's just like, we just don't sell like sentimental pappy crap or something like that. And he's like, sure, pick on the nerdy guy.
Well, he's like, there's no way that your daughter likes that.
That's right.
Oh, wait. Is she in a coma?
He's so insulting to this guy. And he goes, the guy turns and he's like, okay, well, then I'm leaving. And he goes, bye-bye. Which is something I say every single day, either in my head or out loud. That's such a great. Oh God, I love Jack Black so much. I just can't get over. There's so many of these. So Rob's like, "What the hell, man?" And he's just like, so he asked him, top 5 crimes perpetrated by Stevie Wonder in the 80s and 90s. Go. Sub question. And he asked the question, but he does the timeless question in rock and roll is it better to burn out or fade away? Your thoughts?
Damn, dude.
Yeah. It's a tough one, right?
Yeah, because there's bands that, look at the Stones and look at, the Who. They're still chugging along.
Yep.
And at this point, if you enjoy watching live music, then I would suggest, you go see them and you have fun. But I think in terms of putting out albums and stuff, my theory, I have this theory that I say that after about 20 years, maybe 25, you just tour, maybe put out some albums, but don't expect those albums to reach the heights that they did. But because after about 20 years, it's just, you have so many songs and so many hits that you go out and you play for the people. Yeah. You go out on summer tour, which a lot of these bands do. Like, there's another band that I just got into last year because of their Tiny Desk concert, which was 311. I was never a huge 311 fan.
Okay.
And I watched their Tiny Desk concert last March, I think it was. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember this song. Oh, wait, they sang this song? Oh shit, they sang that song? And so they played 4 songs. I knew all of them. I didn't know, or maybe I just kind of didn't put 2 and 2 together. It was because a lot of their songs were like in the early 2000s, especially. They were just kind of like on soundtracks, or they were on the radio a lot. And so I never really kind of knew who sang them. I just heard them a lot. And so, they're 311's is a band that I just got into. And so you take bands like that have been around a long time, and each summer they go out and they go tour and they make their money, and they're able to sustain themselves. And I think that's what you just turn into. If you're in metal, it's the same thing,
Aftershock.
Just anything. It's just you kind of, it's better to, I think, just fade away. That's what I think.
All right, there you go.
That's my answer to that.
I think it all just depends on. You mentioned the bands that have sustained it.
Yeah.
I think I was looking at the article in the Press Democrat this week that said 2 bands from the 70s are going to be playing at Wednesday Night Market. It was Flock of Seagulls and Asia. And I was like, I was not the bands I was expecting to see. Wasn't expecting to see that Flock of Seagulls is still out doing their thing. But you know what? It's free on Wednesday night. And to go see him in downtown Santa Rosa. And why not?
Yeah, appreciate it while you can. That's what I said. Absolutely. Because I was just listening to Iran the other day. Last week I was going to actually try and learn it. Na 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 na. Na 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 na, girl like you. Yeah. Dude, I love that song. So yeah, it's you enjoy it, man, because that's the one thing about music, and I love about this movie is that I feel seen, because I enjoy music on a different thing or different kind of perspective now because I've worked in the Virgin Megastore, I've worked at Tower, I worked at Warehouse, I've worked at all those places, and you do run into people like Rob and Dick and Barry, and they're usually the managers that manage places like that. There's been a few that were really cool, really cool, but those are more the mainstream, the corporate, like Music Land and Warehouse, things like that. But once you get into the indie stores, it's this, I don't know. I mean, I've been trying to get hired at the last record store for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
And then now it's the next record store, and I still can't get hired into that place. That wall is so impenetrable.
Wow.
And but yeah, I mean, I like this movie just because I feel seen, and I feel like there's I don't know, I love music, and I love listening to it and playing it. And in fact, we gotta start playing together again, Tobe. Come on.
We do. Let's do that.
Yeah. And yeah.
So it's interesting that you mentioned about being seen, because before we leave this scene, Barry's got a pretty good, he's like, listen, Stevie Wonder came on and did a lot of, pappy crap later on. I just called to say I love you, and go to the mall.
Yeah.
And then he looks at Rob and he's like, listen, I'm telling you, as a friend, that's the worst sweater I've ever seen. It's a Cosby sweater. A Cosby sweater.
Did Laura let you leave the house like that? Oops.
And they get into a fight. Yeah, they get into a fight, and then they find out that, Rob takes off, goes in the back room. Dick goes to check on him, finds out that Laura left.
Yeah.
So tell Barry, next time, I'll tell him.
I had other things to tell him anyway.
Tell him,
it won't be a problem. So I'll just tell him, and yeah. Do you want to talk about it? Is it that kind of thing, or no? But thank you, Barry.
No,
thank you. Thanks, Dick.
Yeah, so he goes home right. I mean, love Dick.
Yeah,
love me some Dick. Get that drop. So Rob goes home, is rearranging his record collection. Now, you own vinyl. I don't own any vinyl, but vinyl, and to a lesser extent, it seemed like, especially in the 90s and into 2000, and it's making a big comeback now.
Yeah.
It wasn't, you had to display your music.
Yeah.
I bought a lot of music from Columbia House, whatever the other ones were, where you get 10 for a penny, and then you're locked in, and then it ruins your credit, and you realize, I have an R9 on my record. It's because I still owe Columbia House of $700. I never paid for any of this stuff, did I? But it looked good on the CD rack in the corner of the room. You had to have that CD. I mean, this is an unheard of thing for today's generation.
Yeah.
Right? The millennials don't know what displaying your music in. It's on your phone.
Yeah.
So you don't have a tangible album. We had tapes. You had to buy all the tapes. Before that, you had to buy all the records. Before that, you had to buy all the 8 tracks.
Yeah.
And you displayed them in your living room so that people would walk up and look at what you've got displayed. Now, it was important not only in what, as we talk about mixtapes, because we're going to talk about mixtapes too, that it was important of what you showed. Now, not all the music that was on my CD rack I would listen to, but if I knew who was coming over to the house, I would take certain things out and put other things in to make it look like I was this like eclectic. Like, look at all this taste and all this music.
Yeah.
Like, I might put a bunch of reggae in for certain people, or put more heavy metal in for other people, or put hip hop and rap in for other people. You would rotate it based on who was coming over to your house, because you knew in the event that they walked over and looked at that rack and went over and saw what you had, it had to be cool stuff, but also stuff that was like interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what Rob was saying after he sleeps with Marie DeSalle, which we'll get to. I'm jumping ahead.
Yes. Right.
But it's like, it's not what you're like, but who you like. Call me shallow, but these are important.
Things are important.
Yeah, and so I think that was a big like you said, dude, that was kind of the big thing, is to have a nice big eclectic music collection. And now vinyl is getting expensive.
Oh man.
It used to be like, well, back in the day, it used to be like 10, $15 for, an album. Now it's 35 for a new release. Sometimes if it's a double album, it's 45, $50. So now I think the record industry is kind of realizing that vinyl is a new, everybody's into vinyl again. So they hike the price up. And I was talking to my friend the other day who runs a little studio out of his garage down in Southern California. And we were talking about the audio mixes on vinyl nowadays, which is basically not fit for vinyl. You have to mix it a certain way for vinyl, and not a lot of artists do that. What they usually do is they just take the digital files that you take when you're recording and then just slap that on a vinyl and say, here you go. But I think the people that know how the audio files in the music industry, they know how to mix a certain album, and they mix it a certain way. You bring up the lows maybe a little bit. I don't know how to do it, but you mix it according to how you're going to release it. And I think he was saying Chris Stapleton does that. There's a few artists that he knows that still do that, but for the majority of the artists, they just take your digital files and they compress them and they put them on vinyl, and it doesn't really take to vinyl some sounds. And so what you end up with is maybe a little thinner sound, or a little maybe artificial lows and mids. And so there's a lot of things about vinyl that I'm learning about now. And he was saying anything before like 2004 or 5, or anything after, he said, just shouldn't be on vinyl. And
interesting.
Yeah. And so it's kind of made me question. I mean, I'm still going to buy vinyl, but you could still buy, old stuff for like $10, $5, used vinyl. And that still looks good and plays well, that's what I kind of look for now. But yeah, like going back to your initial kind of thing was, I'm going back to buying like what do you call it? Just buying CDs. I'm buying Blu-rays. I still buy cassettes. I have a cassette player. I can. So I'm going back to all that stuff, because it just, the streaming too is just, you don't own anything. Even if you buy it through Apple, you can't play it anywhere but an Apple device. It's just hard because they don't play well with other things. So it's hard to play it on a different device, and you can't send music to people. And we're back to pre-LimeWire days. You remember LimeWire?
That? Yeah.
So I mean, it's back to, I think, those kind of days of you're trying to kind of rip music from the internet somehow, and then you could share it that way. Because back in our day, man, we could make mixtapes, like you were saying. We can make mixtapes and give it to people and say, and that's the whole premise of this movie, is the way you express yourself is you make a mixtape, and you don't have to say anything. You just make a tape. And that's something I want to talk about too later as we get.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
So they go see Marie DeSalle, who's played by Lisa Bonet, who was in The Cosby Show. The Cosby Sweater. And she's actually singing this song.
Is that Peter Frampton?
Is that Peter fucking Frampton?
I used to hate the song. Yeah. Now I kind of like it. Yeah.
And everyone in the room is smitten. Right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's heartbroken, but he just talked to his mom. His mom had called on the phone and told her that Laura had left, and his mom starts crying.
Yeah.
His mom, that's played by
John Travolta's mom.
John Travolta's sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's his sister. She's like, well, I don't know how it works in these days.
All I know is that you move in, she leaves. She moves in, she leaves.
Yeah.
God damn, Mom, that's some cold shit.
That's some cold shit.
Oh man, so they go see Marie DeSalle.
Yeah.
And they tell her, "Hey, you got to come to our championship vinyl.
Come see our store."
Yeah. And eventually she does, right? Or is there a
Not
scene before
expecting
that?
her to actually do it, right?
Yeah.
So they're sitting in the store, and they're all sitting around with Lewis. They got their buddy Lewis there, and it's Rob, it's your turn. He's like, okay, I'm feeling kind of basic today. Top 5, track 1, side 1, and he starts listing things off. And his second is "Let's Get It On" "Let's Get It On" by.
Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Oh, how about the fucking Beethoven, Fifth Symphony?
How does someone who owns a record store not know anything about music?
And so this guy comes in, right? And he's been hounding them about this particular album by Captain Beefheart.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hi." He's like, "Hey, just 1 second." And right, Barry's like, "Just 1 second." He's like, "No. He's like, I was wondering if you have this." So Barry gets up to go around and check. He's like, do you have the record? Barry goes, "Let's see." And he goes around to the counter, and his pants are falling down, and the butt cheeks hanging out, and the ass crack is hanging out. It's such a Jack Black thing to do, because he's totally fucking with this guy. And he's like, "Oh, I do have it." And he's like, "Okay, how much do you want for it?" He's like, "Let me
give it to me."
Oh, you know what? I'm not selling it this week. And no,
that's what you said last week.
So he leaves, and Lewis is just all. He's like, "I don't have that record. How much do you want for it?" He's like, "I'll give you $40 for it." And then Rob's all, "Go ahead." No, why would you sell it to me and not to that guy? Because what does he call him? He says something. "You're not a geek, Lewis."
Yeah.
Man, you guys are such snobs. You're so elitist.
Yeah.
Which they really are.
Yeah.
These are 3 elitists, Dick and I mean Dick to a lesser extent, but he's like, "You just think you know everything about music. You think you're smarter than everybody." No, which you are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I feel seen, is because of that type of people those are the type of people that run the record stores. They were like, "Hey,
that's why." Right.
Go ahead.
You can't. You're like, I can't get hired on with these guys because they're freaking Rob and Barry and Dick, and you can't get hired on because it's like, that's what you said. No, you said last week.
Yeah.
Check back in a week.
Well, it's always, in my experience, it was always like somebody would come in and be like, "Hey, do you have random name? Do you have Daryl Evans's jazz trio on Blue Note?" And I'm like, we have the Japanese import. You should probably get that one. That's a great one because it has that extra song on it, and it's just like, yeah. And actually, he had a trio before that has the same exact songs. It's just different people on it. Do you want to listen to that? And they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And then it's just, yeah. And then actually he went on to be in this jazz trio, and then he played with Thelonious Monk. They were drunk one night and someone happened to tape it. So do you want to hear that too? And it's just like, you go down a rabbit hole, and it's one part you're kind of grateful that people know this stuff.
Sure.
But then if you work with them and you don't know this stuff, you're a leper. You're just like, how do you not know that? That's, like Jaco Pastorius jammed with Jimmy Page. Like, how do you not know that? Or whatever it is,
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh God, it is very like, it's a whole different language.
Yeah.
It can be a whole different language.
And there's people that, they just live and breathe music. So, and that's their job, and that's how they get to where they're at. But it's, at the end of the day, it's like, it's a little record store,
Right. So Rob goes back into the office, and he calls Liz, his sister Joan, who's played by his sister Joan. Now, it's unclear if they're friends.
They're friends.
We know, having seen it, Liz is not Rob's sister. They're friends.
Yeah.
And it looks like when she's talking to him, she's talking to him from like the 40th floor of some high rise where you see the river in the Chicago skyline back there. In an office, she's dressed very nicely. She's appears to be a very successful person, maybe a lawyer just like Laura. It's unclear. It's not defined. Not in if it's in a deleted scene. I haven't seen it. But she's like, yeah, she's sticking up for him.
Yeah.
She's sticking, I just thought you guys were so good together. And, I just don't think a whole lot of this Ian guy. And right then, Dick comes running into the office. Marie DeSalle is in the store, and he's like, I got to call you back.
Yeah.
And he goes out, and Marie DeSalle's in the store, and they're playing her record. And he's like, maybe we should turn her record off. And
turn it up.
He's like, yeah, she's all, nah, you should turn it up. Oh, yeah, right. I'll do that. But right before I do this other thing. And he turns around, runs back into the office to talk to us. And he says, what fucking Ian guy? It's driving him nuts. Like, he's got this crush on this girl, but hang on, I got to go talk to my friends, which is us, the audience. And then all of a sudden, he's storming around outside, and she doesn't know anybody called Ian. And there is no Ian in her world, in her... it's so crazy. Like, the fourth wall... It kind of bends reality a little bit, and I wanted to talk about the how he uses the fourth wall.
Yeah.
He's talking to us, and it's unclear if it's happening in his mind or
probably
people not hearing him. It's so well done in that it kind of changes throughout the movie too.
Right. Well, I think it's his inner monologue, I think, and I think at this point. Regardless of the hypocrisy going on,
right?
Breakups fucking suck, man.
Yeah.
And I think the thing though that what people don't realize is that, or maybe they do, I don't know. Like you said, I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, I think what makes it easier is when you accept the fact that this is a possibility. I think a lot of people go into relationships and they are just so adamant about making it work, right? So they're dating to marry or whatever it is, whatever the preference is, that when they get into a relationship, man, that shit this is going to happen and I'm going to make it happen or whatever it is.
Right.
But then when it doesn't, everybody's so heartbroken, and rightfully so. Everybody gets heartbroken. It's hard for both people. If you're living together, you got to move your shit out, whatever it is. But man, like breaking up sucks. And I think once though you accept the fact that that's a possibility, then I think it becomes easier. That's in my experience anyways. I think going through a lot of relationships and realizing that because what I hear a lot of my guy friends say a lot is that, oh, I don't ever want to feel that way again, being broken up with or whatever. But it's like you are, if you're
right,
healthy,
it's going to happen.
Right.
I mean, well, that's a great way to go through life. That way you'll never get to know anybody.
Right.
Isn't
Exactly.
that what Goodwill Hunting comes up again.
Yeah.
It's a great way to go through life. That way you'll never get to really get to know anybody because you're so afraid that you're going to get hurt that you just push everybody away. It's just not...
or you're blindly on one track, and when things happen, you either ignore them or you just try to kind of placate them and because I have this goal in mind and this is the goal I have envisioned for us and so because that's partly why I think people avoid this whole like breakup thing of relationships. It's like, why are relationships so hard? I'm like, well, it's not hard. It's just you have to kind of know who you are pretty much and just kind of go into it knowing that like I'm up for anything. I want to be this, but I'm okay if that doesn't happen. And I don't think a lot of people, I think younger people, at least, I see a lot of people thinking like, well, no, I have to marry this guy. I love him. He's my best friend. And, oh, we broke up. All right, I'm off to this guy. This guy is my best friend now. And I love it. Or girl or whatever it is. And I see a lot of that lately. I don't know if it's a social media thing, and the thing I want to say to them is just like, just have fun. Relax.
Right.
It's not gonna. Maybe it won't work out, but you have to be open to that possibility as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that the first time it happens to you, and maybe even the second and third time, it's just a really. You're not used to doing a reset.
Yeah.
You don't have those. You've never been there before,
right.
And you don't have those skills, especially if you come from, say, a small town.
Yeah.
And everybody's still here. It's the same people that you've been in kindergarten with, you're going to graduate high school with.
Yeah.
And, for you and me, I mean, you grew up in Healdsburg. I grew up in Forestville. It's the same people from 5 years old to freaking 18 years old, and maybe one of them dies along the way. That's like a whoa, like a whoa, hang on, or somebody moves away, or the new kid comes, and we got something new, someone new come in, and that's an adjustment, and it just kind of you're really not. It's one of those things where your parents can teach you a whole lot, or whoever's raising you can teach you a whole lot, but until you come across, they can't teach you everything until you experience something that comes along like that.
Yeah.
And a breakup is not anything that first of all, you're not going to listen to your parents about what a breakup is. What do they know? What do you know, old man, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know. You've been married to mom since you guys went to high school together.
Right.
You don't have any idea what a breakup is. I'm ahead of you in this category, right? Like, you guys have been together since what, junior high?
Yeah. Well, even if they have that experience, a heartbreak is just such a solo thing. Yeah.
It's
you lose weight, you cry a bunch. That's the healthy way, I think, to what is it? To process it. Because if you try to do it any other way, I've tried to do it millions of ways, or not millions, but I've tried to do it many ways. And the best way is that you just acknowledge it. You feel the feels, you get sad, and then the more you kind of go through it, the more it's like, oh, it didn't take 2 years. It took 1 year. Oh, it didn't take a year. It took 6 months. Oh, it didn't take 6 months.
It's going to suck for a while.
Right. But it's going to suck. And that's the thing is like, and so when Rob is going through all this stuff, especially when he realizes she's with somebody else, man, that's just a horrible thing. But the thing about this movie is that it's he goes out and keep going, because he does something.
Yeah, well, he figures out who Ian is, right?
Yeah.
Is it played by Tim Robbins, and his name is Ian, but
Wears
he realizes he realizes who he is by checking the mail. Hang on a second. Everybody called him Ray. His name was Ian Raymond, and so he looks at the mail and it says I Raymond, and he's just or Ray to his friends, and more importantly to his neighbors, because he lived above them. And what does he say? Something like clothes and hairs, rings on all his fingers, awful cooking smell.
Musical taste was whatever was in style, whatever international music was in style.
Yeah. He's like, I didn't like him then, I fucking hate him now.
Yeah.
So then he pictures them having sex on this cutaway, and it's just playing Isaac Hayes music in the background. Oh my god!
And they're in this ridiculous position of like,
and he is fucking thrashing around, sweating in the middle of that. He is as miserable. This is rock bottom for him.
Yeah.
And he comes back from tearing up the bed. He's exhausted. He says, number 5 on the all-time top 5. What was her name? Hang on. He's all Jackie Alden. Jackie Alden meant nothing to me. I just put her there. But it's Laura. Turns out number 5 is Laura with a bullet. And of course, right?
Yeah.
So his top 5, again, his top 5 is kind of bullshit. He puts fillers in there and this comes up again later in the movie, but then he comes. So Liz comes to the shop out of the blue as he's miserable, right? He's got the sunglasses on, and she's like, she comes in and he's like, hi, Liz. She's like, hi, Rob. You asshole. and everyone's like, what's that about? And he's like, well, he tells us it's possible. He goes to some it's a lounge bar, and he's drinking
the piano player
schooner of beer, right? Old school Michelob style schooner of beer. He's like, it's possible that Laura told Liz 2, possibly all 4 of the following things. That he slept with someone else when she was pregnant, that they cheated on her, and which caused her terminating the pregnancy, that he borrowed a bunch of money and didn't pay it back, and that Rob at some point was sort of kind of looking for someone else. Did I say and do all of those things? No. Yes, I did.
But and this is the thing, I think, why he uses what he uses is because, his shtick is nostalgia. He's stuck in the past.
Yes.
And he uses the past. He uses his music, the top 5 list. He doesn't want to confront anything in the present. He's always talking about, he relates everything to these old bands and stuff like that. And that's why he comforts himself with his record collections, his music or whatever. And I think that's, when he goes into the reasons why, and he tells us all the reasons.
Sure,
why
he's got an excuse.
Yeah.
It's not his fault.
But as he's telling them, though, you could see the wall kind of coming down. In my opinion, you see the wall kind of coming down, and him kind of going, after one of the reasons, he's like, and she absolved herself from any wrongdoing because she's smarter than I am. Pulled a lawyer trick on me.
That's right. He's explaining this to us on a subway, on a crowded subway. He's sitting in the subway car, the L train, because it's Chicago, and everyone's just sitting there minding their own business, and he's just talking to us openly. I love the fourth wall here, where first he's walking through the subway or the train car, and he sits down, and he's telling us all this, and Liz is like, "That's shocking. That is shocking." Which is, again, another line that repeatedly through my head every single day. I see Joan Cusack say, "That's shocking. That is shocking." And she's pissed. Okay. And she gets up from her lunch with Laura.
Yeah.
And Laura's like, "Hey, oh." So that's when she goes and storms into we see the flashback of how Liz ended up in championship vinyl yelling at the owner that he's a fucking asshole. And it's not all his fault, right? He didn't know she was pregnant.
Right.
And then he went on oh God, this is so cringy too. And then I went on when she told me, he's like, "I didn't know she was pregnant. I didn't know she terminated the pregnant until I talked about having kids," and Laura starts to cry. And then she told me, "Well, I was pregnant," and then he went on some, what did he call it, a self-righteous crusade, my child too, blah, blah, blah. And so then at that point he goes, "You know what? I'm doomed to repeat the past.
Yeah.
Why does this keep happening to me? I need to go and call number one on the list and find out why she dumped me. Why did she dump me for Kevin Bannister?" So this is what starts this whole thing of he's now going to go rehash the past, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And the first person he calls, turns out that he calls the house because he's got his little black book from high school, and he calls the number, which her mom answers, right? Because it's still the number. It's still a landline, right? It's 2000. And she says, No. He's like, "Hi, I'm Rob. I was her first boyfriend." She's all, No. Allison married her first boyfriend, Kevin Bannister. They are married. She is Mrs. Kevin Bannister. And he's like, "Well, technically, I was the first one." And she's like, "Well, I don't know what you mean by technically, but I gotta go now, Bob. Okay, bye." And he's like, "I'm fine now. She married Kevin. Made out with me. Made out with Kevin. Married Kevin." He's like, "This is
I never understood that. I never understood, up until recently, probably in the last year or two of watching it. I thought maybe I was thinking too much into it, and I was like, well, why does that get him off the hook? Why does he feel better about that? She didn't marry you. And so for the longest time I couldn't, but now I get it. It's just they were meant to be. And
yes,
and
they were meant to be. And he, again, it was for 6 weeks in junior high.
Yeah.
And then she married Kevin. And he was like, okay. Why
did I do this earlier?
Now I got to see the rest of the top 5, right? And he starts, and then he's like, I got to see the rest of them, right? And then it cuts to Bruce Springsteen, who's playing a nice blues riff. Originally, they wanted Bob Dylan for this role, but he wasn't available. So actually, John Cusack called the boss and says, "Would you be in this role at the last minute?" And he's all, "Sure."
Yeah.
Because Bruce is cool, right? And he's like, "Yeah, man, just see how they're doing, give the old good luck and goodbye the top 5 list. You feel better. Well, maybe you feel better." But it's so selfish, right? He tells him, "Yeah, go for it." Yeah. It's not, why are you forcing this on other people? Yeah, well, you feel better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you ever have you ever done that with past relationships?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's so crazy to me. That's good Lord. You can bump into him. It's a small town.
Right.
And at that point, you're like, you go through Safeway and every once, I mean, it doesn't cross, I've been married 20 years. So at this point, it's not like I'm walking around and, at this, if anybody's, still upset about it, I'm sorry. But,
Well, no, I just meant like in the past, like I think before you got married and
no.
Because for me, man, I got a bruise on my nose.
Yeah, it looks like somebody stalked you.
Yeah, no, I think it's my sleep mask. It's a new one. So
gotcha.
Anyways, yeah, I think I've tried to be friends, after you break up, and it's for me, it just doesn't work.
No.
And so I don't really talk to any of my exes, even though a couple of them were just nice and there's no animosity, but I think for the most part, I'm more just like, all right, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I mean, there was the only one that comes to mind was the one I've kind of always wondered. It was someone who just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
It was a long distance thing. Which,
yeah.
It was in
Canada?
college.
Niagara Falls?
No,
area?
It was a couple states away. I won't say a whole lot more about that, and it doesn't really matter but it was like is she alive?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've Googled just to make sure this person wasn't kidnapped and taken away to a Black Ops site. I don't know, but it was weird to just be like that. I wasn't broken up with. It was just poof, gone.
Yeah, yeah.
And I looked and still alive. Okay, good,
cool.
That's all.
Yeah,
I don't need to know why.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out on my own. Apparently, I wasn't her cup of tea at a certain point, and instead the way she handled it was just never gonna call him again.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the, it was a little weird. You drop somebody off at the airport and then you never see them, kind of thing. But anyway.
Well, yeah, I think I've tried it once. I tried to kind of connect once, and I remember just a little short story, but I remember when I first moved out, I was living in these apartments on Jennings, right a block away from Coddingtown, right? And went out with this one girl, and she was lovely. I loved her, man. She was great. And we only hung out a couple times, and then she like your situation, like she just disappeared.
Yeah.
And I was working at the warehouse at the time, and probably about 6 months later or so, she comes walking in, and she's like pale, and she's with this dude, this older gentleman, and she was around my age at the time, and I was 20, I think 19, and she comes in with this older gentleman, looked like her dad or something, and they're renting movies, and she comes up to check out the movies, and I'm like, hey, how you doing? And she looks at me like this, like, and I'm like, hey, is everything all right? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, hey, I had if you ever want to hang out again, give me a call. We should go hang out, play some pool or something. She's like, yeah, okay, bye, and left. And I was after that, I was like, Jesus, okay,
stuck with you. You're like, whoa, dude.
Because it was
she's
weird.
Like, can I order a pizza? I'm calling to order a pizza.
Yeah, that's what I thought at first. But she had, I think she had some, substance abuse problems, I think.
Okay.
So I think maybe it was like a rehab type of thing, I want to say, but she was really pale. And,
oh, boy.
Yeah. Anyways.
That's sad.
Yeah,
all right.
That is.
Well, let's hope she's doing okay today.
Yeah, I forget her name, but I hope you're doing all right.
Yeah. Good luck. Goodbye and good luck. So Rob calls Penny.
Yeah.
And Penny, and I was, we don't have to go over all five, the whole top five, because it's just.
Yeah.
But the Penny thing is interesting because they go and they see a movie. She's doing really well. She's a movie reviewer. They go and they sit down, and he goes, "Why'd you break up with me?" He's like, "Well, it's so funny because, you wouldn't have sex with me, and then you broke up with me, and then you had sex with the other guy." And she's like, "Well, you broke up with me."
Right.
And you're like, he had told us this earlier. And then it's like he had forgotten.
Right.
Like in his delusional brain, he had thought that he's constantly being dumped. She dumped him, or he dumped her. He just walked away because he was trying to get there, and all they did was make out, and it was terrible, So he was like, why am I always doomed to be rejected? She's like, you rejected me. Thanks a lot. And then because of that, I had sex with this guy. It wasn't rape, but it wasn't not rape.
Right.
And he's just like, Jesus. I mean, she has her own High Fidelity story to tell in this too.
Yeah.
And it's because of you. You rejected her. And so there might be a Penny Hardwick movie out there somewhere. And, it wouldn't be a comedy by the sounds of things. But so he says, Charlie's too soon. Too soon to go to Charlie. I would skip over and go to Sarah Kendrew. Sarah Kendrew's got a whole bunch of problems.
Oh, jeez.
She's like, the medication's not working and I lost my job. And he's just all, okay. And he goes, all right, well, there's only, I got to go look for Charlie. And this is the reason why I wanted to do this movie, is because I think of this line all the time, multiple times a day. What I do, part of my function at my job, is to find people who our clients have worked with or known years and years ago. And oftentimes you have to go and look them up in literal old phone books in a library.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, it's time to look up Charlie. And it cuts to him sitting at the dining room table with a phone book open, and he goes, she's in the fucking phone book. And I love that line so much. And that whole thing where he's just like, she doesn't belong in a phone book. She should be on Neptune.
Yeah.
She's not a person in a phone book. So he leaves her a message. She'll never call me back. I actually recorded it and texted it to you this week. And I had said it to myself after we recorded Mallrats, because I was asked to find somebody. And in this case, it was a female person. And I went up to the online phone books and it said, looked them up. They were right where they were supposed to be. There's the phone number. And every time I come across that, I always think of that line. It's almost a daily basis. She's in the fucking phone book.
Yeah, she played that part well, man.
She really did.
And
she really did.
Yeah, and back to our previous conversation about it, it's like, she grew into this kind of person that is kind of really shallow and really, I've known people like this over the years too, is just shallow, and they just say stuff just to get a reaction. In fact, I used to live with a girl that was like that. I used to call her a hipster, the little hipster. But she was always like just saying stuff or liking things because it wasn't like, I was watching a Giants game one time and she was like, why are you watching the Giants? There's a soccer game on. And I'm like, I don't really watch soccer.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't watch soccer? And I'm like, yeah, you don't. And in my head, I was thinking, you don't either. But, it was just the thing. You watch something, whatever. I'm watching the Giants game. Yeah. So anyways, yeah. I know people like that.
So, the kids try to steal, Vince and Justin try to steal a bunch of stuff from the store, which I love. And then Laura shows up and she wants to get her stuff from the apartment. He's asking her kind of along the same lines, how's it going? He's like, well, where are you staying right now? And she's like, I think you know where I'm staying. And he says, I had to kind of figure that out on my own, didn't I? And he's like, well, have you slept with him? And she's like, will we sleep together? But we haven't made love yet. And he's like, and so he feels like a little bit triumphant. Like, she's left. She's actually living with this Ian guy.
Yeah.
But she hasn't had sex with him yet. And so he's so relieved and he feels so, We Are the Champions starts playing. And he says, I feel so good. I immediately go out and sleep with Marie DeSalle. And it's like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Dude?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's the thing. I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people in your 20s or whenever you go through the shit, but it's like, it's one of those things where you realize that the relationship it's not out of a certain phase, where it's like the breakup, when you break up and get back together again and all this kind of crap. And you realize, it's for all the things that Rob is like kind of, oh my God, heartbroken about. It's like, it still hasn't hit him about what's at stake, basically the stakes of everything. He's still playing in the minors kind of. And go ahead, keep going.
So he and here's another fourth wall thing that's really interesting. Here's one where it's a little bit different, because he wakes up next to Marie DeSalle and he's like, how can, and now he's all quiet. Like, he looks over, make sure he doesn't wake her up. He's talking to us, right? He's like, he's like, how does this one guy, he's like, I hang out with the musical Moron Twins. and and so then we see how they got together.
Yeah.
Because it's like a lot of flashing forward, flashing back, and that's when he's talks. They get to know each other, and they're talking about books, records, films. These things matter.
Yeah, right.
Which is what we were talking about, and that's how they connect. That was their connection. It's really, you do have to compromise. It's not who you know. It's like it's the things you like,
right?
And it helps. And if you were to ask me, there used to be this, what is the secrets to a good relationship or a long-lasting relationship? I would say the old joke used to be 2 TiVos, 2 bathrooms, and square footage.
Yeah.
But what really, if you guys really don't like any of the same things, it's going to have a short lifespan.
Yeah. Yeah.
How is this going to work? I've had aunt and uncle who vacationed separately and just were together 35 years.
Yeah.
They each have their own house and they're married.
Yeah.
And one lives here and one lives there, and they're devoted to each other, but almost never see each other. There's things like that. And I would think that, looking back on that, I almost want to think that these are 2 people who don't like any of the same things, but generally just, I think, want to be married.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
That's where I think
way different.
Yeah, I think that's where I think a lot of things there has to be a deeper connection, because all of that stuff, if you don't like stuff, or if you don't, like you said, you're going to have a short shelf life there.
Yeah.
So you have to, and this is what Rob, I think, is learning, or going to learn by the end of the movie, is that, these things are important. They are, and it's not anything to kind of shy away from, but you also have to have that connection and that want to be together. So, in my past, like I've learned that, when shit hits the fan, like not everybody is going to be there and try to weather the storm. And I've been one of those people, like, oh, shit's hard. All right, I'm looking for something else. But it's that idea that, like, oh, I love this person, so let's work this out, or here's how I'm feeling about it, which a lot of people don't do. A lot of people don't communicate well. And as they get older, it becomes apparent that, they didn't learn. I mean, they just know how to communicate a certain way, and it's like, you got to lay it all out on the line. And that's where the vulnerability comes in. And that's where that fear of, well, if I lay it on the line, they don't like me, they're going to leave, and I can't have that. So it's like, well, I'd rather be honest with somebody than just play along with whatever kind of vision that they have, and hopefully,
it's not fair to the other person and you can't pretend to be somebody you're not too.
Right.
You can't be overly like whatever you want to do just so that you don't leave me. There's that. There's the Brody version of it, right? Which is, this is how it is, and if you can't go along with, if you can't, hop on the Brody train, then we can't be together, kind of thing. And this is, and I think a lot of guys, like alphas, if you will, there's a lot of talk of alpha males out there. Listen, this is how it is. And if you're going to be my girl, all this shit has to be cool.
Right.
You have to be cool with all that. These are the things I'm going to do, unwavering. I do these things. You better be cool with it or else hit the road.
Right.
And then there's the opposite of that, which is, not the beta, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
the sensitive ponytail guy.
The sad bastard guy, but they're miserable too, because they've just been, I'm gonna be the person so that she doesn't leave me. Or he doesn't leave me, or whatever the situation is. But so Rob asks the question. He goes to the guys and poses the question: what would you think if I said I haven't seen Evil Dead 2 yet?
No, that's right.
And Barry's like, well, I'd say you're a liar, because you've seen it twice. Once with Laura, oops.
Well, with me and
once with me and Dick. And he goes, yeah, but what if I told you, like, say, he's like, I'm not following you. I'm not following you here. He's just like, what if I said I haven't seen Evil Dead 2 yet? And he's like, I think you're a cinematic idiot, and I feel sorry for you. And they talk about, why Evil Dead 2 is so great. And in the Hungarian version of this movie, I guess.
Yeah, the Reservoir Dogs,
they hadn't seen Evil Dead 2. It wasn't very popular, so they substituted with Reservoir Dogs, which is, in the book, the question he put, what would you say if I haven't seen Reservoir Dogs yet?
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm sorry, can I go work now? And Barry actually, he's so annoyed by this conversation.
He's all, no, Barry, what if I, yes, I know if I've never seen
I haven't seen Evil Dead 2, yes, I get it. So then Barry comes back, and you were like, although
the word yet,
yeah, I think maybe you want to see it,
yeah,
but you just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's just like he's trying to like diagnose what that yet meant.
Yeah.
Because now it's bugging him. It's bugging Rob.
Well, I think, again, it's just the part of the relationship where you're just grasping at straws. You just don't want it to be true. You're just like, but, and you're just prolonging the agony, which I've learned is just like cut it off really quick, dude, and just heal, get over it. But
right.
And Liz asks him too. I think it's around this time.
Yes.
Why do you want Laura back so badly?
Right.
And I think that's a good question, because I think it allows him to start thinking about the ways or the reasons why she wants, to get him. I don't know. Just, I think
it's a great question.
Yeah.
He's like, what is it with you? Like, right. And I think Rob doesn't know. He doesn't have a good answer for that. Why do I want Laura?
Well, there's an interesting thing in the deleted scenes. There's a deleted scene with Liz talking to Laura in one of those high-rise offices. And he's like, she's like, well, maybe I should get back with him. And Liz is like, well, why would you do that? And she says, well, because I'm afraid to, because I think if I get back with him, then he's just going to leave, And she's like, what? And she's, that's just the way he is. He'll leave. He wants to leave first, or he wants to leave me. And that's why I will go out with him, or whatever, something like that. You have to look it up.
No, it makes sense, because he had said that he had.
Yeah. So I think, again, it's that relationship that's still in that phase of, like what he said, at the bus stop when he's waiting in the rain. It's like, I had one foot in. I never really committed to any one thing. I've always had one foot in, one foot out. And I think it's at that time, especially I know we're getting ahead, but it's like, you have to make that decision. You have to be like, am I in or out? And if I'm out, or if I have one foot in, one foot out, then I'm out. That means out. And so you got to get to that decision, sooner or later.
And Charlie is the one who actually asks him that, because she calls the store and she calls him back.
Yeah.
He said she would never call him back, and she does. And she says, I'm having a dinner party. Are you in or you out? And he's like, what do you mean? And she's all, well, there's this rash of boyfriends that have been calling, wanting to go through that what does it all mean phase. And I just, I don't have time for that. And I've just, I just need to know, Rob, are you in or you out?
Yeah.
He says, I'm in.
Great. And you want to come have a party?
Yeah, which isn't true. And so he goes to the dinner party, and he realizes at the dinner party that all those things that he thought he loved about Charlie, she's the same person she was back then. When all those things he said were awesome, and she's interesting, and she's got views on politics, and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out she's just brutal.
Yeah.
He's like, she's annoying, and she's talking shit about everybody. And everybody leaves the dinner party, and the first thing he says is, so why'd you leave me for Marco? And she's like,
I knew it. I knew it. Fuck. I knew it.
that line reading, though, is kind of cringy, but.
Yeah. And she's honest with him. She's like, he just seems sparkier, sunnier.
Yeah.
And, he's like, I'm kind of a bummer.
Well, the thing also, when she's on the phone with him, he's like, so you have kids? And she's like, no, I just, I think kids is, whatever she says, time consuming. I think that's the word I'm looking for. She goes, that's how she talks. She talks like there's nobody in the history of the world has had kids before.
Right.
And I know people, dude, I know people like that. You're just like, so how are you? Well, it's with the kid, whatever. It's just, I'm just so busy, and it's that's what happens when you have kids, or that's what happens when you do that, whatever. It's like,
right.
It's like they think, oh, well, I don't know. It's just,
the grass is half greener, or grass is half greener. The grass is the grass is greener you did the things that society said you should do because that's the fantasy. When you got into the relationship, you got married, you had the 2.5 kids and the dog and the picket fence, and you did all the things. And then when you ask them how things are going, it's like, well, the kids and the kids. And you're like, but that's what you're supposed to do. So you can't really complain about it. And,
I think about the people that I've always talked to that have been like, can we change this around? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can change it around. And I'm like, fuck, I have to change. All right, cool, I change it. All right, so how come you couldn't do it at that specific time before? And they're like, well, I was just busy. It's like, I'm busy too. Like those kind of people are just like, what are you talking about? Like, you're not the only one busy, but still, I don't know. It's crazy. Anyways.
So the Rob comes back to the store and they're listening to this song and he's like, what is this? It's Vince and Justin. Who's Vince and Justin? The skate punks. And so he goes out and he tells them he's going to produce their record.
Yeah.
What are you guys called? We're called the Kinky Wizards. What's your record label? Top 5 Records.
Top 5 Records.
Top 5 Records. He comes back in and Barry's like, what was that? He's all, you'd rather put on a record with business crippling Nazi youth shoplifters than someone you know in your bitter, jealous heart is a musical visionary.
Well, who are your influences? You wouldn't know them. They're mostly German.
Kraftwerk, Falco, Hasselhoff. Yeah, he does something with the finger.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that was a funny
Jack
scene.
Black is phenomenal. He's wearing a Yanni shirt. I love that.
Yanni.
So Laura's dad passes away. She calls the shop, and that kind of changed. Hey, Laura called, and that's when he was there. He goes to the funeral. My mom wants you to be there. Was he going to be there? No, God, no.
Yeah.
And he goes to the funeral, and the minister at the funeral is played by John and Joan's father.
Dad. Yeah, father. That's Fasha.
Dick Cusack is his name. He's the minister at the who had passed away a few years later. Rob leaves the reception. He's sitting in the rain. Laura pulls up. She's like, "Get in." He's like, "Where are we going? Just get in." They have sex in the car, and
they get back together.
He says, "Why don't you go in and be with your mom?" And she's just like, "I don't want to. I'm too tired. I'm too tired to not be with you."
Yeah.
I'm too tired to not be with you. She's like, fuck it.
Yeah.
And that's the compromise, right?
Right.
She's just like, listen, with all the problems and this and that and all the, the 4 things that he had done and all that, she's just like, it's just, let's just be together again. It's easier.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if that's a healthy way to do it, but this is what he remembers this.
Right.
For the end. And they talk about, and it's great. They stay in and they make love all the time and they go to dinner every night. And they're talking about the song of their relationship is "Let's Get It On" by Marvin Gaye. And he's like, "What, are you kidding me? That's the whole basis of our relationship."
Yeah.
Oh, I need to have a few words with him, by God.
But did you notice though that when she moved out, right? She multiple trips. She was always showing up, and then when she moves back in, she did it in one take, or whatever,
all back one time.
That's and so you realize that this is kind of like something that was needed. A little break, a little breather, and death has has a way of equalizing a lot of stuff.
Totally.
And so I think. Going through all the stuff that she went through, because when she comes back, now she realizes, like when she puts together that concert, it's like, oh, this is something I thought of when I was with Ray and whatever, and I was kind of mad that we weren't together anymore. So now she's got a more of a clear vision of how it is and what it's going to be like. So she doesn't have any of these illusions anymore, which he still has these kind of like, still this kind of, the remnants of, because he still hasn't gotten there yet. Not until that scene at the bar, when he's
right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And he, she sees that this is a good push for him in the right direction.
Right. Yeah.
She's like, you've been the professional appreciator And now, finally, you're going to put something out into the world, which we had talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And he was like, he sees the flyer and it was like, well, it's a dance music for old people. What the hell is this? And Barry's going to play the band. Barry's going to play. Yeah. They're Sonic fucking Death Monkey.
Yeah.
So then the writer comes in, Laura or Caroline comes into the store.
Oh, that's right.
And she says, "Did you used to DJ?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're Bob."
Rob.
That's Rob.
Yeah.
And it turns out that she's the writer from the Reader.
Yeah.
Is it the Reader? And he reads her article all the time. And she said she's interviewing him, and she's like, "Well, what are your top 5 albums, all-time albums?" And he's like, "It'd be easier if I just make a tape for you."
Yeah.
So now he's going to make a mixtape for her. And Laura comes home and he's making a tape.
When's this gonna stop?
When's this gonna stop? And she's like, "When's what gonna stop?" Oh, she's like, "Who's the tape for?" It's just for the girl that's doing an interview about me.
Yeah.
Silence.
Yeah.
She's putting the groceries away. And he goes out he's walking in the park and he's talking about, people tell you to trust your gut. Well, it turns out my gut has shit for brains, which I think is a great line. So he calls her to the bar.
Yeah.
Oh, drinking lunch on a school day. And he said he's tired of the fantasy.
Yeah.
And he proposes to her.
Yeah.
And she laughs at him. She's "I'm sorry. Forgive me if you're not the most secure." Bet. You were 2 days ago. You were making a mixtape for the girl from the Reader, right? Right. I mean, she's got a good sense.
Yeah.
Like she's back together with him, but she's kind of watching him. Like, listen, at some point you need to get it together. And he says, that he's, when you don't, when you're dating someone, you never see the pantyhose over the thing, and you don't see the water in the sink and the this and the that. And she's like, "Well, I have, it turns out they're not always wearing lingerie. Right. The fantasy isn't real." And and he realizes that I'm tired of it too. I'm too tired to not be with you too. And that you've worn me down. He's like, so
yeah.
So he got there, right? He finally gets it. Like what she said, "I'm too tired to not be with you." And that he's making the mixtape for Caroline, he's like, "When's it gonna stop?"
Yeah.
And it just takes him realizing, dude, I gotta stop. I have to stop this.
Yeah.
And understand that that's not real.
Yeah.
All those things that you had built up in your mind of how things are going to be, it's just not real. It's just not the reality.
I mean, it could be real, but it requires a lot more. It requires something that you're not. So you're stuck in this kind of this cycle of, well, this is how I want stuff to be, but you're not doing it. You're not living that way. So it always stays a fantasy. And at some point you have to be like, okay, well, is that realistic? No, it's not.
Right.
And I have something real right here that's real, that I love, and that this and that and the other thing. And so I think that's what, and it hits him like a ton of bricks. It's just like, that's why he proposes, and she gets it because she's like a step ahead, right? And she's just like, oh, okay, he's coming around, like, and it isn't any kind of manipulation. It's just more of, okay, this is all right. This is what I thought. And because for her, I think it was more of, if I love something, I got to let it go. And if it comes back, however it comes back, then
right.
And so for her, I think she's just kind of looking for that thing of like, cause as chill as she is, she's not going to wait around for another 6 months and him be the same, but she knows that he's on that track of like, I think when he leaves the wake and he's like, "Laura, I'm really sorry." And then he leaves. I think that kind of says something to her. Like, again, death tends to be an equalizer. So I think she it's like the Occam razor thing. It's like the most simplest thing is usually the best answer. And that was pretty simple. That's all she wanted was, "I'm sorry, like, I'm sorry for wasting your time. I'm sorry that I didn't see this earlier. I'm sorry, all that was in that one Sorry, and so I think that was the
Yes.
catalyst to kind of move things along. So she's like, when he's like in that bar, she's like, okay, all right, cool, I get it. Like he's there, he's going. So yeah,
Right. And we're not getting married right now,
right,
but this is you just took a huge leap forward.
right. And now I'm ready to meet you. Now I'm ready to be there with you. You know. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And let's build that fantasy together as a team.
Yeah.
As opposed to two people who just happen to fumble into
Right.
a perfect, the pieces of the puzzle click together perfectly.
Yeah.
Which if you have that, that's great. It's very, very rare. And it's not the reality for everybody that you see walking around the streets or sitting on the subway.
Well, yeah.
They had to build it. You have to build it. It's
exactly. Well, like that's the best word, I think, is you build it, you know.
Yeah.
I think the relationships I've always had, it was just like, I'm out, you know, whether it be me or the other person, it's always been like, okay, we're done, you know, that type of thing. And it's like, and for me, I'm like Jared, I'm this romantic, you know, this hopeless romantic. And, you know, that worked against me in a lot of ways. But I think the one thing that I just never gave up or would always hope for was that, let's build this together. Okay, we're having a hard time, but let's get through this. And I've been on the other side of that too. I've been the one that's been like, I'm out, you know.
Right.
But I think that's important to distinguish, is that, you know, you have to build all that stuff, and you have to have a strong foundation of, you know, whatever. So yeah.
So we come to the final scene. We're at the bar. It's the record release party. And Vince and Justin are behind the bar, and they're underage. So, you know, hey, we don't want to lose our liquor license. But Rob, as the DJ, who's DJing.
Yeah, Rob Gordon.
He introduces Sonic Death Monkey. And here comes Sonic Death Monkey coming up. And it turns out they're no longer Sonic Death Monkey. We were about to be called Kathleen Turner Overdrive. But tonight, we're Barry Jive and the Uptown Five. And
I've been really trying,
and they crush it. And Jack Black is singing, obviously. Yeah. And they sing Let's Get It On. For the third time in this movie, the Let's Get It On is referenced. And it's Rob and Laura's song. It's the whole basis of their relationship, as Rob was joking about. And Rob who was mortified that Barry's band was going to play, so mortified that he didn't want Justin and Vince to even play at their own record release party. He's like, wait, you're going to pay us to not perform? He had no faith in Barry, and it turns out Barry can sing.
Yeah.
And so he goes home and he starts to make a compilation, a record, a mixtape for Laura for the first time.
Yeah. And he made a mixtape when they met. He made a mixtape for her.
Oh, he did. Oh, that's right. That's right. He made a mixtape when she said, you know, come back next week and I'll make you a tape.
Yeah.
And so for Laura, this is the I love you. This is how he's going to prove that, you know, you will marry me after you listen to this mixtape.
Yeah.
And he tells us how to do it. And I like this because you've done this for someone.
Oh, yeah.
I've certainly done this for someone. And he's right. You got to kick it off with a killer. Then you got to take it up a notch.
Yeah.
You don't want to blow your wad.
And then you put that ballad or that slower one in that third slot, you know.
So good. I've made a lot of these, not just for friends. And then, you know, for the new girlfriend. It's I don't know if this is a thing that people do anymore. I think you would probably do a playlist.
Yeah, playlist. Spotify playlist.
Yeah. I don't think that's the same as taking these, finding the right tapes to put in the machine and all that time. And you do have to listen to the whole song. You can't just drag and drop and then email it off. This takes it's an art, using somebody else's art to express how you feel. There is an art in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking, because the soundtrack for this movie is huge. They listened to something like 2,000 songs before they figured out which ones were going to be on the soundtrack. And a soundtrack is a mixtape for the audience.
Yeah, right.
And it takes a lot of thought to put into this. And I just really appreciated that Rob is now he kicks his mixtape off with I Believe by Stevie Wonder, which is not from the top 5 crimes committed by Stevie Wonder in the 80s and 90s. Go. This is a classic Stevie Wonder, maybe not the most popular Stevie Wonder song, but you're listening to it. It almost kind of sounds like a Jamiroquai song, maybe Jamiroquai was. It's such a good song. Yeah. It's such a good one to go out on with that fretless bass. Just whoa, so good. So that's the movie, right?
Yeah. That's a great movie. A great movie. Again, I think it's one of my favorites, and I think it's influenced me to suggest that next week we do one of my all-time favorites, which is maybe we could do Color of Money. But the one other thing that I want to say, I love that movie, dude. It's one of my faves.
It's a heartbreaker, and it's everything.
Yeah, and there's a lot to say about that one, but. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what I want to say is like what I wanted to bust out to our listeners, if anybody's listening, is that maybe we should start a poll, and maybe you guys can decide what movies we want to do next.
Sure.
We have a list that we go by, but maybe we'll bring in the outside people. Not only that, but you can comment and subscribe, and it really helps out the channel. And I'm not really good at that, and I got to be better at that of promoting the channel, but. Tobe, what are your final thoughts? You're doing this, but
No, please.
What are your final thoughts about the movie, man?
Okay, so.
Or do we do a Klay Thompson?
I got a Klay Thompson.
Okay.
My Tim Robbins is my Klay Thompson, and I'll tell you why is because. He's such a big part of this. He's such a huge, not his presence so much. He's only in the movie for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But the fucking Ian guy and how big he is and just the character and what he means. Laura living with Ian. But Tim Robbins is such a great, and he agreed to do this cameo. And same with Anchorman. I'll do it, but you got to make me a ridiculous wig. And I get to keep the wig. Those were his own. They didn't pay him very much for either of these roles, but that's what he insisted. Those were his demands in his writer.
Well, he's pretty.
Sure.
He's pretty much the catalyst in this movie of everything that happens. Yeah, he is.
He's like the MacGuffin almost, if you will. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he doesn't steal Laura away. She goes to him.
Right.
And it's unclear what she even sees him. I mean, he's a therapist of some sort. He says that he's in, I'm in conflict resolution.
Yeah.
And he's got the ridiculous ponytail. The scene where there's 3 different versions of him getting his teeth knocked out and Dick smashing. Dick murders him in one of those fantasy sequences. It's just so good where his teeth fly through the air. So Tim Robbins is my Klay Thompson.
Sweet.
Yours?
Mine is Liz. I mean, I think she's
good one.
Yeah, I think any scene that she's in, I think she kind of takes it and runs with it. And she's always a fantastic actress on her own right too. I think in School of Rock.
Yes.
She's great in that movie. She's great in Grosse Pointe Blank. She's great in even in like 16, where she was the girl with the braces and the headgear, and she's like, on the bus. And so mine is Liz Joan Cusack. Yeah.
Yes.
I loved her in
this.
That's
fantastic. My final thoughts are, I can't thank you enough for turning me on to this movie when I ripped it from your iTunes all those 15 to 20 years ago, whatever it was. I missed that iPod.
I still have mine.
I was looking for it earlier today, and I was like, I'm burning too much daylight here. It's probably somewhere. I'm sure I didn't throw it away because that thing was so sweet. I watched that's the one.
That's mine. Yeah.
Is it 80 gig?
It's a 30 gig. Yeah.
Nice.
Mine's a 30
Okay.
gig. If you go on, mine just needs a battery, which they sell them on Amazon for $12.
Everything's still on there. If
Yeah.
you were to power that up,
Right.
It's all, dude.
And
awesome.
the battery comes with these tools that you can open this up.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
then there's on YouTube, there's a guide on how to do it. It's really easy. So I'm thinking about doing that. And because it used to just power up when I plug it in. Now it doesn't even do that. So yeah. I got to fix it.
Look at you, dude. Oh my God. I'm so jealous. You know what? Now that I think about it, there's what, dude, yes. Oh my God.
Mine's really scratched up because I had a case for it.
Yeah.
And the case scratched this up.
Yeah, it would do that.
Yeah.
They were,
the case did that.
We needed like a swatch guard.
Yeah.
For our, remember the old swatch guards for our watches? That was a way to get $5.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. This one, the case had the thing. It was, you put it in, it had the window and it had that. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it out. And I took it out and it looks like this.
It won't, you can't buff that out, huh?
Nah.
Damn it.
So
fantastic, dude.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for going down this trip down memory lane with me. I knew you liked this. I was a little concerned because you and Scott had just done Empire Records, that this was a little too close to another record store one. But I figured, hey, strike while iron's hot, right?
This one's a little better, I think. This one, Empire Records for me was, I think me and Scott had said in the pod, it was kind of like a little glitter on the grit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling Scott in that pod, I think Empire Records at the time, I always thought that it was a corporate kind of version of what the kids like or whatever.
Yeah.
And this one I think is a little more, it's way more realistic but I love Empire Records. I love that movie. I watch it now for different reasons, but it's like, I still love that movie too. So. And so anyways, it's a great movie. I love it. One of my faves. I'll make playlists too. I'll start making playlists and we'll put
that's a great idea.
Yeah, like Steve's favorites, and then we'll put the podcast.
We could do a Spotify. We could just break our own rules, right? We'll make you a mixtape. We'll just drag some songs onto Spotify.
That's right.
A great idea.
We'll do gonna see my friend's playlist, and we'll put some music on there for you guys.
Just what do you know about that, dude? Look at you. It took us 30 episodes to get there, but we figured it out.
If everybody knows any other way to broadcast this shit, anyways, so
thanks everyone. Have a good day. Have a good week. Go say hi to your friends. Watch it holds for 25 years ago. This movie holds up. Yes
definitely.
Nothing in this that's like, ooh, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
absolutely not. In fact, if anything, now that vinyl's really making a comeback, it's even more poignant now than ever. And it's relationship stuff, and that's an evergreen subject. So all right.
Thanks,
love you. Can't live without you.
See you, man. Thanks.
See you, buddy.
Bye.